Ready Life, into the country.
Hi, I'm Nick Meisner. I want to welcome you back to the Ready Life podcast, where we help you become as independent as possible for basic necessities of life, like water, food, heat, and the power that often makes these things run. And in this episode, we want to talk about one of the pain points of living a more independent lifestyle. And, there's a lot of moving parts. We all live busy lives, and, there's a lot of different things to do on a homestead in addition to work and just life in general. And anytime you can automate things or reduce the number of things you have to do, it's a really nice thing. And we recently did this. I don't know why it's taken us this long to do it, but we were going to be going on a camping trip, and we were like, how are we? It happened to fall right during the hottest weather of the year, where it was going to be like over 100 degrees for a week. And we were trying to figure out how we were going to keep our plants and animals alive and all that while we were gone. And so we decided to put in a automated watering system. I'd been holding off on it. I thought it was going to be a bigger chore than it was. It actually turned out to not be too bad to install it, and it's been working really well for us. So we wanted to show it to you because this could be a great way to, streamline your life a little bit and reduce the number of things that you have to manually do. And so the brain center of this whole thing is a control box like this. This is the one that we use is, I think, the Orbit brand, but there's a bunch of different ones. I think Rainbird makes some, and others, whatever you have in your store. This is a 2-station system, and it wasn't that expensive, I think. I mean, it wasn't cheap, but it was, maybe $60, I think, $50, $60, something like that. And it was quite a bit less than some of the bigger ones. And so the number of things you could program, but you've got 2 stations. So, start time for station 1 is at 7 a.m. that we have it set for. Start time for station 2 is 7:30. And then you can tell it how long you want it to run for. So for station 2, we have it for 15 minutes. Station 1 is 10 minutes. And then you tell it how often. So for station 1, we're doing it every 12 hours, so twice a day. And for station 2, every 12 hours. I probably need to adjust that to once a day for some of these, but I set this up during some really hot weather, so that's why I was doing that. And so anyhow, what we've got going on here is, let me turn this back to auto so it'll work right. You can see it says that the next time it's going to turn on is in 6 hours for station 1. So over here is station 1, and station 2 is on the right. And so with what we decided to do, we had some critical places that we wanted to water. One was the blueberries that need water frequently, more so than some of the deep-rooted crops. And the chickens needed water, chickens and turkeys. And so because we were limited to 2 stations, we had to combine 2. So you can see I put a splitter here. This particular line is running over to the greenhouse to water the tomatoes and other stuff that we've gotten there. And this one is running up to the coop to water the birds. And I'll show you how we've got that set up. And then station 2 is running over to the blueberries. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this on manually and show you what it looks like. It's not a ton of water, but it's so far been enough. You don't want to have too many things on one station. But let me trigger this on. So I'm going to do station 1 for, Station 1 for, we'll do 5 minutes. And so in a few seconds, that's going to turn on. So first off is we're using micro sprinklers. There's many ways you could do this. However you wanted to water things is fine, but we're using micro sprinklers with a little 1/4-inch tube. And so this is the adapter that runs from the hose. And then we've got this feeding the greenhouse. So as you can see, the micro sprinklers here, I have probably too many of the micro sprinklers on 1/4-inch tube here. It would be better, in retrospect, one lesson I've learned from this is that it would be better to have a header set up where we had fewer of these micro sprinklers on a 1/4-inch tube. And so it's not spraying out. Normally when you've got just a handful of these on a tube, it should be spraying out, several inches or whatever. But for us, we were okay with this because, as the water goes down, it's going to go laterally and it soaks the whole area. And we have the sprinkler heads every 1.5 feet or so, something like that. And so it's been working out for us so far in the greenhouse. Certainly some things that we could do to improve it, and we'll fine tune it as time goes on. The other thing that's on this particular station is the chickens and turkeys water. So let me show you how I have that set up. So here, once again, we've got the adapter going to the 1/4-inch tubing, and then basically have a splitter here. We've got 2 buckets inside, which I'll show you, but 1 tube is running to each bucket. So if you're familiar with birds, you know that they create a lot of dust. They do dust baths and everything gets dirty. And so keeping decent clean water for them has been a challenge, and these little things have helped out a lot. And basically it's an automatic watering thing where whenever they drink a little bit out, it fills up automatically, and it's pretty easy to clean these out because we can just tip the bucket over. You can just pick it up and tip it over like so, and do that a couple times and it gets the junk out. You get the point. Oh, this is how Lisa cleans it out. But what I did is I drilled a little hole in the bucket, ran the 1/4-inch tube in, put a sprinkler head on there. You can see the sprinkler head, and that keeps this bucket full. You can see somehow, I don't know how these birds do it, but even with the screw-on lid here, they still manage to get some junk in there. And so periodically, maybe once a week, you want to clean that out. But it has worked really well. And same thing in here, the hose running to a sprinkler in there. And these Gamma seal lids work really well. Don't screw them on too tight because this overflows most days. You can see the water down there. It overflows every day. I just heard them turn off because I turned this station on for only 5 minutes. But this keeps them topped off, and it worked really well while we were gone. And we've just left it going while we're here. We still check the water just in case something has happened. You don't want to rely on this entirely, but we like having 10 gallons of water here just as a backup. And this has just made life so much easier with the watering situation for the birds, and just keeps water moving through the buckets every day. And then let me show you the last station. Okay, so now I'm going to turn on station 2 manually. This does automatically when it hits the time, but I'm just turning it on manually so you can see it in action. So here you see, this is more normal. In the greenhouse, I have that overloaded. Like I said, I've got to put some headers in there. It's just not getting enough pressure. I've got too much on one zone there. But this is more normal for these micro sprinklers. It puts off a decent amount of water. You just got to figure out how long it needs to stay on for. No, this isn't probably ideal. I think the best is hand watering for stuff like this, because then you can get a wider throw. And yes, you could use an impact sprinkler, but then you're wasting a lot of water. And you can still hand water with this, but what it does is it provides kind of an emergency backup for us, where if we get busy or are gone or whatever, we know that the plants are getting water and sufficient water. And then, like I said, you can still hand water in addition if you wanted to. But we've found this to work pretty well, and I'm sure we'll still keep experimenting with it. But if it was just, sometimes you picture something is going to be a lot more difficult to set up and you just put off doing it. And that was the case with this. And so I just wanted to show you how simple it is. This was not an elaborate thing. No, it's not a big fancy ideal system, but it was quick and easy to set up and relatively inexpensive, and it's working well for us. So we were noticing that we were losing some blueberries, and we weren't quite sure what was causing it, but we thought it was the birds in the area. And what do you know? Our hummingbird feeders had run dry and they'd gone away. So we topped them off, and hummingbirds have come back, and what do you know? We're not losing any more blueberries. So hummingbirds are awesome. Like I said, anytime you can find hacks like this to save you time and make life easier, that's a huge blessing. And so anyhow, hope you found this helpful, and we will look forward to visiting with you again next week on the Ready Life Podcast. Y'all have a great week now. Bye.